Hey man, what you doing there? I'm gonna start making my first game right now. See you later. Cool. Hey, what's your game about? I have no idea.
Hey guys, welcome. I'm working on my first commercial video game right now with my wife Nikki, and I want to share some of the tips I've learned during this very difficult process. You will literally hear this everywhere. All of my idols have said it. And there's a good reason for that. Let me explain. If you haven't completed a full game yet, there's probably going to be some gaps in your knowledge about making games. It's really easy to start a project. Now, let's say you're making a game that's similar to Final Fantasy. You've created your character movement, and you've got some NPCs in the world, and you've even designed a couple of enemies. On the surface, it's really easy to feel like you've done most of the work at that point. Like, you've got a solid foundation now, and all that's left is multiplying what you've already done times however many enemies and levels that you want to have in your end product. Or maybe I'm the only one who thinks like this. I'm not really sure. I don't know how you think. Now, in my case, I was lucky, and the first game that I made was for a month-long game jam. And within that month, I had lots of time to discover things like, how do I make my characters go through doors? How do I load a new scene? How do I keep my players' health from resetting in each new scene? How do I keep track of the player upgrades and what they have and haven't unlocked? I was making a metroidvania. How do I handle making a main menu? How do I pause the game? And there were just dozens and dozens of questions like this. And I had a few things that I thought would only take me 15 minutes to code out, and they ended up taking me days to figure out how to do them. And this is why people will tell you to start with a small project first and actually finish it. You do that and you'll have a full understanding of at least what you're getting yourself into with a bigger project. I would actually take what I just said and revise it to say, finish a small project similar to the big one that you want to be working on. Obviously, just do it at a much smaller scale. And game jams are a really great way to do this. And I highly recommend to any aspiring game devs out there that they participate in a couple. They are humbling experiences. And you'll learn a heck of a lot in a really short amount of time. Interestingly, you may actually solve a lot of headaches for your future self. I still sometimes grab some code from my very earliest game jam entries because it has a lot of built-in functionality that I have needed for other future projects. Do whatever you have to do to pump yourself up. Look at images on Google, watch Let's Plays on YouTube, play your favorite game, whatever the heck it is, it doesn't matter. But making a game is the pinnacle of creativity. You're combining art, music, sound design, and story into an interactive experience that evokes emotions from people. There are tens of thousands of elements that come into play in a game. It's insane. So do what you can to get those creative juices flowing. You have a favorite game. I know you do. Study it. All of the best artists on the planet stole ideas from other artists, but just put their own unique twist on it. There's a reason that that game is your favorite game. If you can, try to pinpoint what it is so that you can put that element into your game, if that's what you want. Maybe it's the art, and the game has a really rich atmosphere that makes you really want to just explore every nook and cranny. Maybe it's the story. Maybe it's the music. Maybe the combat is just awesome and it makes you feel like a total badass. Maybe it makes you think really deeply about certain aspects of life. There's no wrong answer. The answer is unique to you. Find the thing that makes your heart beat just a little bit faster, or the thing that puts a smile on your face. How can you bottle that thing up and put it into your game? That's what you want to figure out. You have areas in your game dev skill set that you are strong in and that you are weak in. Lean into your strengths. That doesn't mean don't try to improve on your weaknesses. Ideally, you can build yourself up to be great at some things and good at everything else. But it's highly unlikely that you're going to be great at all aspects of game development. So what I mean is, if you are great at atmosphere and mood, then make your game just ooze atmosphere and mood. Make it the most interesting or dark or creepy or intriguing game environment in the entire universe. That's going to make your game special. If you're great at game feel, then make your game as juicy and as satisfying as possible, and that's going to make it special. If you're a storyteller, tell a kick-ass story. Leaning into your strengths is what's going to make your game stand on its own and feel really unique and special. You have enough to worry about and enough tasks to manage and things to create. So you might as well make things a little bit easier for yourself and create rules for your game. Who are all the main characters in your game? What are their personalities like? How does the villain contrast the hero? What are the power-ups or upgrades that you're going to have available for your character to find? How many levels are there going to be? Does your game have different biomes? If so, what's going to be unique in each biome to make it stand apart? What's your game's color palette? Does your game have a lock and key system? Are they literal locks and literal keys? If not, what are they? What's the main hook of your game that can be shown with just a GIF? Are you going to have shops, NPCs, crafting, experience and level ups, currency? What happens when your character dies? Can you heal your character? How does that work? You get the point. You can Google some really great game design document templates, but you might as well make these decisions early on in your design process. It'll save you time and headaches, and it'll keep you on track and keep you organized. If you're enjoying the video, then please give it a like. It really helps our channel grow and reach more people. We really appreciate it. You don't need to worry about getting every single thing perfect on your first try. I would actually argue that this would be a mistake. Why? For one thing, your skills are going to improve as you work on your game. That's just the nature of things. You gain experience and you get better. And as you get better, you're gonna look back on something you made a couple of months ago and be like, ew. Because you can do a lot better now. The other reason though is because it's just not the most efficient way to work. I actually used to be super interested in writing a fiction novel. And what all the pros will tell you in the writing industry is to just write the book. Vomit it out as quickly as you can. Once it's out of your system and it's on paper, edit the crap out of it and make it awesome. Making your game should be a similar process to that. You end up doing multiple passes on your game and you iterate and you improve your game with each pass that you do. You've probably heard of game devs talking about the polish phase in the end stages of their development cycle with their game. So there are passes where you create things. There are passes where you improve things. And then there are passes where you polish everything up and you make it as perfect as you possibly can to the point where it is identical to how you saw it in your mind originally. So if you know right from the get-go that you're going to have multiple passes while you're working on your game, you'll be less likely to waste days or weeks or sometimes even months trying to fix that one thing in your game that's driving you crazy. Which leads me to my next point. So you have an idea in your mind. You can see it. You know how you want the end result to look, but you don't necessarily know how to go about creating that feature in your game. It can be so easy to get actually obsessed with these types of problems and end up wasting a lot of time on them. You might just need to move on for now. This happens to me a lot with certain visual effects that I want to make in my game. I'm okay with particle systems. I'm not fantastic, and I don't have any experience writing my own shaders from scratch yet. And so I can see how I want an effect to look in my mind, but I'm not necessarily experienced enough to know how to create that effect. And in that situation, if there are no tutorials online, then I'm kind of stuck. Sometimes there are just some ideas that you have to give up on and compromise for something else, which it sounds really crappy, but sometimes for the sake of saving yourself time, you may need to be willing to do that. This does not mean you can't come back to that problem later. Of course you can. And actually, if you give it some time and you come back to it in a couple of months, you'll be more experienced in that point, and maybe future you will actually know how to create the thing you want to create. Now, of course, if the thing you're stuck on is absolutely critical to your game design, then that's a little different. You're going to have to figure that out. And here's where asking for help is going to be your best friend. The game dev community blows me away. It is absolutely amazing. There are so many intelligent and helpful people out there who are willing to take time out of their day to help out complete strangers on the internet. It's absolutely incredible. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. I don't know what it is about game developers, but every single one of us seems to severely underestimate just how long it's going to be to make a game. Maybe it's because of game jams, and you see developers, myself included, with YouTube videos with titles like, I made a game in 72 hours or less. I've actually seen I made a game in 10 minutes before. But what I can tell you is that your game is going to take a long time to make. Even if you're full-time and you get to work on your game all day. It's amazing how a whole workday can come and go, and you're like, oh, I created one new enemy type today, except there's still no sound, there's still no particle effects, so technically it's not even done. There are things that need to get done to complete your game that you have likely never had to create before. So you can't really budget how long that's going to take you because you just don't know. There will be bugs. So many of them. Some of them will take you 2 minutes to fix, and some of them could take you 2 days or 2 weeks. It really depends. I don't care how efficient you are or how well you planned your game. If this is your first game, it's going to take you longer than you think it's going to. And this is not to discourage you. This is really just to prepare you emotionally. It's a long road. You're not always going to feel motivated. You're not going to always want to work on your game. You're not always going to like your game. But if you keep showing up at your computer, eventually it will get done. And it's okay if it takes longer than you think. I hope you found these tips helpful. I would love to hear if you have any tips for other devs down in the comments below.